Welcome to The Blueprint, a journey of self-discovery intended to reconnect you to yourself and remind you that all the answers you seek, you hold within. The Blueprint is a journey which intends to bridge the gaps of access to self-healing. Over the course of 11 core episodes, we will explore radically different ways of thinking where science meets spirituality meets self-love. The Blueprint is a hack to fast-track your consciousness and realign you with your soul. I'm Marley Finnegan, creator of The Blueprint, seeker of seekers, mother, intuitive healer, and lover of Mother Earth.
Welcome to The Blueprint. The Blueprint is where self-love meets science meets spirituality. Its mission is to make inner work accessible to all by reconnecting seekers to themselves and the unlimited access to their highest blueprint that they hold within. We believe everyone has their own inner knowing, an inner compass of sorts that when in alignment is their truth. It's a feeling of inner peace when you are in true integrity with your soul. What is your current relationship to your soul? Asking you this is Kristen Woyan. I am a mother, yoga instructor, fire sign, seeker of the divine. And my best friend Marley is the creator of The Blueprint, which is a 9-part journey meant to connect you to yourself. The next 9 episodes of this podcast are of Marley taking you through radical ways of thinking, which intend to connect you back to yourself. You can have it all. You can examine your current relationship to your soul, but the blueprint to having it all and doing so starts by realizing that you don't need anything. It's already in you. And so with that, I'm here with Marley. Marley, what is the blueprint in your words?
Thanks, Kristen. The basis of the Blueprint is really that everyone has their own inner knowing and truth. So we implore you to take with you what resonates and leave the rest behind. We believe everyone's intuitive, created, and connected to a divine higher power. Inner work's the hardest work, but it results in the most beautiful outcomes. The Blueprint, at its core, is a 9-part journey which guides seekers into deep self-inquiry about relationships to self, Mother Earth, and the systems in which we exist. It postures that all things exist and are created from energy, including our thoughts, our emotions, and our words. We talk about the critical nature of self-empathy and the deep interconnection of our bodies, the various parts of our minds, and our souls. We go into the process of envisioning the highest possibilities for ourselves and our collective, including Mother Earth. The journey is 11 episodes, this being the first, and we cover 9 topics which enable deep self-inquiry, including a plethora of tools and resources available alongside each episode to go deeper. These deeper inquiries include over 50 rituals, 50 introspective journal prompts, 9 custom meditations, and 9 custom healing frequencies by house music creator Ashkam. Each episode is a part of the journey, and the sum of all parts is a path to examine what your own soul's highest blueprint looks like. Ultimately, we believe that all the answers you seek are within, and the blueprint is simply a guide to help you access it.
Beautiful. So I'd ask listeners, as you think about the resources available through the blueprint, ask yourself, what tools do you have which help you connect to yourself? And as you think about what those tools are, make a pie chart of your current daily time commitments. Include all aspects of your day. So when you finish listening to this episode, think about how much time in your day you allocate for yourself. And really the intention of the blueprint and the tools that are so wonderful to be able to sort of deepen the inquiry, I think, is to allow you the time to say, this is just for me, because the answers are already here within. So I'm very excited to kind of dig deeper into what led you to create the blueprint and all of the elements that we're sharing.
So in 2020, my child, then 1-year-old, I had a vision of them at 18 years old asking me why I didn't do more to save the earth. And that basically started me in a journey of changing and updating everything in my life to align with the most sustainable, conscious outcomes in my own lifestyle, including quitting my job and starting my own sustainability consultancy. I, really in tandem was going through a big spiritual awakening in 2020, a Kundalini level awakening where I legitimately felt at one with every blade of grass and every leaf on every tree and every animal. And really, the unseen and the mystical became one of the most awe-inspiring and exciting aspects of my life. It became what I connected with other people about. It became a huge part of my healing journey. And it really also started me opening up aspects of my intuitive self that I think were dormant since I was a young child. Kristen also was a huge part of the creation of the blueprint. And I hope I'm not oversharing, but she was going through some things in the fall of 2023 in tandem with me really feeling that I was being called to sort of come out of the spiritual closet and share more and do more work in the spiritual space. So, Kristen, if you don't mind talking a little bit about your experience then and sort of these other aspects of healing, which include hard parts.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for us to talk about that because as listeners embark on this journey, they you may listeners, right, may realize that a lot of self-inquiry and doing inner work like this and taking the steps along this journey can bring up a lot of past feelings and emotions and trauma and things like that. So many of you have probably heard about concepts like dark nights of the soul or ego deaths. And I'll just share humbly and candidly, I've had many. I've got a punch card at this point, right? Of like literally I'm hoping my 10th one's free, but it's through the process of examining really why I was feeling what I was feeling and going there that I was able to kind of emerge with a deeper understanding of myself despite the feelings that emerged while I was going through all of those very hard times, right? And so a lot of that we equate to in the blueprint, and we'll talk about in the blueprint of the human experience being very similar to like movement around a circle. And as Marley shared, when we first started on this journey together of talking about a lot of these concepts, her as a listener, me as a sharer, then me as a listener, her as a sharer, right? I would say that I was on very much on like the bottom side of a circle, right? And so in this concept, there are days and there's moments where we feel really high and divinely connected. We're in flow, we're elated. And then there's days where, like I just mentioned, we are on the bottom side of the circle, right? And so that is where we experience lower variations of self-doubt, of really wondering what is our purpose, really sitting within past pains and past patterns. And the beautiful part is that as we all move through this journey together and as we move through the journey of life, the top side of the circle, really a lot like the circle of life, it helps us really grow and take steps forward. But the top side of the circle would not feel or ever be possible without the bottom side of the circle and without really having gone through an ego death or a dark night of the soul to realize what's truly important and to strip away the ideas and the things that keep us stuck in a pattern.
Yeah, and I think the two really important parts of the concept of the circle are that it's infinite. When you go through the bottom side, there's always an exit. There's always a top side. There's always a return to the elation, to the awe, to the beauty of life. You just have to get through that bottom part. And I think the more that we do the inner work, the shorter those bottom sides of the circle and those expositions of self and these sometimes really hard, deep feelings of self-doubt and questioning of our worthiness and enoughness, those do they end, so that's the beauty of all of it. But it's important to know that with this inner work, it can create a lot of friction and address that.
Yeah.
It's also really important we understand how our current systemic structures affect our inner landscapes and our beliefs. In order for us to see the full picture, we must acknowledge these structures, and we live within these structures. We can understand this at a high level when we see the world from the two different worldviews. First being indigenous people's worldview. It's spiritually oriented, and it's based in a belief that the spiritual world is a place of utmost respect, trust, and curious observation. It's about Mother Earth, water, air, fire, animals, nature, all as a whole interdependent system in collaboration with humanity. Yet, our Western worldview is largely based on science, skepticism, scarcity, and it requires proof as a basis for belief. It zooms in on details, seeing things and people for parts rather than seeing them for their whole. Late stage capitalism is a great example of seeing something for its parts rather than for the whole. In what world is infinite exponential growth of any kind actually possible? The current systems can feel like they exist to separate us from ourselves and from the whole. And a few examples of our disconnection to the whole can include things like how the US extracts 5 times the resources that the earth can regenerate in a year. There are 52 seasons in fast fashion. The anti-aging movement. What about aging's wrong? And hustle culture. What about rest and taking care of yourself and your mental health is unattractive?
Through sharing that, what you're trying to say, I think, is that the systems that we live in today are really so far removed from connection to oneself, right? That they aim to separate us, not just from ourselves, but from each other by distracting us or by really perpetuating stories that can leave people in a feeling of lack or leave people in a feeling of self-doubt and self-inquiry. And I think establishing that as something that's just like knowing that that is an external force and an external sort of contributing factor to maybe the way that a lot of listeners feel is really important.
It's so important. And I think that sort of also alludes to this concept of stationarity that I think is really important to acknowledge. And it's basically the concept that our minds can unintentionally be limited to only what we know based on past events. So even our imagination can be limited to what we have seen from history or what we believe is possible. And ultimately, what we need at this moment in time for the divine highest good is what is beyond that comprehension, what is beyond what has existed, especially in our recent memory. The most perfect, promising outcome for all is something that is beyond what we have in existence, because this separation is not a part of the best future for all of us. The best future for us is a collective future which engages all parts to create a better whole.
What are we going to kind of start with learning within the blueprint that addresses these systems, these beliefs, and the concept of stationarity?
I think we need to know essentially that we have to give ourselves grace because of the fact that the way that we feel ultimately, and a lot of the limiting beliefs that we've created around our own abilities exist in part due to these systems and in part due to stationarity. So how can we understand and recognize limiting beliefs about ourselves and really start to deconstruct the ways that we think about ourselves, the words that we say to ourselves, and the emotions that we feel about ourselves that aren't actually in service to us at all, that are based on old stories that really aren't our truth. They aren't our soul's truth. So it's really essential. And part 2 is entirely about empathy. And empathy includes self-empathy. It includes giving ourselves grace and seeing ourselves in all versions of ourselves, our inner child, our inner teen, our any inner 20-year-old, all the way through life through a lens of love and also recognizing the concept of self-love, of giving yourself grace, of empathy, even these concepts, like what those words and phrases elicit within you emotionally, and where you're at on the self-love scale, and even that concept as it exists within. So we believe self-love is the basis to all love, and unlimited self-love is available within, no matter how layered or foggy this might feel in this moment. Our goal is that we help you peel back the layers to really get back to that truth within.
So, with that as a baseline, we should close by giving listeners the opportunity to inquire within and begin to examine their relationship with themselves before they continue this journey. So, pause, take a deep breath wherever you're listening, and ask yourself, what are you currently most proud of in your life? What currently brings you the most joy? What are you feeling deep, deep within your heart? Are there instances or subjects or areas in your life which you are, or maybe you've historically avoided? Some of the things at the bottom side of the circle. Where or how are you not kind to yourself? Why? What do you hope to get out of the blueprint? And then lastly, take some time and think about 3 falsehoods or 3 circumstances within some of the systems that we've talked about, which aren't in service to your highest good. And then as you do that, pause. And you're ready to start the journey of the blueprint. Episode 1 is
All is energy. We are so immensely grateful that you're here, and we hope that we can bring you some value over these next episodes. And thanks for tuning in.
Thank you so, so much. And I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you for choosing yourself. The work to return to yourself is some of the hardest work you can do. We believe everyone is intuitive, creative, and always connected to their own divine highest power. When we invest in ourselves and our consciousness, we are raising the frequency of humanity. What we do in the highest good of our souls, we do for the highest good of all. We've designed experiences for you to continue in your exploration of these topics, which are on a pay-what-you-can basis. Find customized meditations, journal prompts, rituals, and abundant resources at the link in our bio or theblueprintwithin.com.